guys, my name is Natasha Demore, and this is episode 5 of Internet Kids, a podcast where I interview my friends about fandoms that we love. This is episode 5, that's crazy. That's so many episodes. Also, this episode is about Detentionaire, which probably nobody has ever heard of. It's a weird little Canadian cartoon that is not very well known, but I love it more than life itself, and I have 2 friends to talk about today because this is special. Episode 5, that's halfway to 10, that's 1/10 of the way to 100. Very important number. My 2 friends are Lenni, who was in another episode earlier. Hello, say hi, Lenni.
Hi.
That was very quiet. You must speak much louder than that. And also Cam, my brother.
Hello.
He is here too, and
We're
they.
both your family. We're not your friends.
Well, you can be
We're
both. You are.
We're both.
Yes, Lenny's
We're
also.
friends you can't escape.
Lenny's also my cousin. In case you didn't listen to the one before, so I have my cousin, my brother. They're also my friends. I hope they're my friends.
We're your friends. We love you. I made
They're
you a
my-
latte.
Yes, Lenny made us matcha lattes. They're delicious. We're all gonna sip those while we talk about Detentionaire. And I hope you're excited because
Green.
I. Wait, what's green?
The lattes are green. It fits. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, Detentionaire does have a very green theme. That's very good. Lenny, you have to talk much louder because
sorry.
when we recorded our Avatar podcast, I had to edit it to up your voice and not mine
Okay, I'll
because you
scream.
talked way quieter than me. I'll also move it a bit away from myself because you guys talk a lot quieter. So yes, I hope you guys are excited because Detentionaire is something we all adore. And I'm super excited to tell the world about it because it's a very, very good show. So, I don't know, you know how this works because you've been in it before, Lenny. Cam, I don't know if you've listened to my podcast. This is a test. Have you listened?
I've listened to the beginnings of one, but
It's okay. They're an hour long. It's a lot of dedication. So how it works is I ask questions. But we go off in rambling tangents and I probably won't get to the end of my list. I have 7 questions, but I don't think I've ever gotten all the way through the questions. So, oh no, I actually have 8 because I've got a 4.5.
Oh.
But I start with number 1. And number 1 is the question that I think is always the most important question we're talking about any fandom. And we'll start with Cam and then Lenny for each of these, and we'll go kind of around. Wait, before I'm going to ask a question, backtrack. We have to quickly do a quick summary of what Detentionaire is. No one knows what it is. So, Cam, in a couple sentences, explain what Detentionaire is. Go.
high school kids who get caught up in a super intense conspiracy with ancient magic stuff and soda pop.
That's pretty accurate.
Pretty good.
That was a good description. It is a bunch of teens who get into a conspiracy. Lenny, explain it in a couple sentences.
Local boy discovers Illuminati. What happens next will shock you.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's about a teenager named Li Ping, and he gets caught up in a very strange series of events that leads to him discovering an ancient conspiracy.
Yep,
It's
pretty much.
more complicated than that, but that's kind of the meat and potatoes of it.
It's pretty hard to explain because it starts out, the first episode is he gets framed for this prank he didn't do and he gets sent to detention, which is why it's called Detentionaire, and then it escalates very quickly.
Well, the first season,
The first 7 episodes.
the first 7 episodes are quite prank-related and detention-related.
Yeah.
And
And
typical high school.
then shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Then there's the Illuminati.
In episode 7, you start to realize there's a lot more to this whole conspiracy. It's not just about a prank, it's about so much more. And then by... How many seasons are there total? 3 or 4?
I think 4.
4.
By the end of season 4, it is wild.
Yes.
And just fair warning, there will be a lot of spoilers. We're not going to refrain from spoilers. So you should go look up Detentionaire and watch it, or be prepared for a lot of spoilers. But yeah, that's the gist of what Detentionaire is. So, now, back to the question I was going to ask. Cam, who is your favorite character?
I was thinking about this beforehand. I'd probably have to say the Serpent. He's my type. He's dark,
your type.
broody, and handsome. And he's got a Zuko vibe. And he rides a motorbike. He's got a pet snake. He's everything.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
Pretty great. The Serpent is pretty
pretty
great.
great.
We never find out... Oh, we do find out his real name. It's also Li Ping.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah!
For the longest time, the fandom called him Kanping.
Yeah.
Because Lee means fire in Korean and Kan means water, I think. So they thought it was like, oh, that's a
He
good...
has a blue color
And he's
theme.
blue
Lee's
theme.
color theme is red.
Yeah. So people called him Kan. And also you could make... Because people make, like, in the show, Brandy and stuff always calls them leaping, like, as a verb. And then it was like, if you had Kanping, it sounds like camping. So it's like the same
Still
thing.
works. Yeah.
Still works. But it turns out his name is also Lee. And his parents are really messed up, and they lost one child and named their second child the same as their first child. But I don't think you ever actually find that out in the show. I'm pretty sure the creator just tweeted that out later.
Yeah, because I don't think his name's ever said on the show.
No, he's always just the serpent. But yeah,
Or Stink Guy or whatever.
yeah, or like Stink Ninja.
Stink Ninja.
They
Yeah.
call him Stink Ninja.
I forgot about that.
I forgot about that too. It's been a long time since any of us have watched it, so we're all going to be sort of piecing together what we remember. But it's very, very good. And it was one of the first fandoms I got into on Tumblr, and it was a very small fandom, and everyone was always like, we were watching it as it was coming out, and everyone was like coming with theories all the time, and it was like the funnest fandom experience I've ever had because it was so engaging. Like everyone was always coming up with theories, and it was such a small fandom that you actually got to talk to everybody in the fandom, and like it was such a good time. God. Detentionaire. Quality fandom. Alright, Lenny, who's your favorite character?
Biffy.
Oh my god, I love Biffy! Biffy's so good. Tell us about Biffy.
He's like the stereotypical high school bully.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really nice guy. The reason he's always bullying people and ending up in detention is so that he can hang out with his kitten and knit her sweaters.
Yes!
He's really fun. And his role as this series goes on is like the tech guy who like stays back and like watches Lee over the computer and like gives him the roots and like hacks things for him.
Yes.
Which is like funny because he's this big hulking like tough guy.
Yes.
But he's the tech guy and I like the like contrast there. It's fun.
Also, Biffy and Lee are in love.
Biffy and Lee are in love. You can't convince me otherwise.
They're my favorite ship in the show. They're very good.
They're very good.
Oh god, I love Biffy. Biffy is one of my faves for sure.
Yeah.
He's just so good.
He's
God.
just real good.
Detentionaire has really good characters.
It does.
One thing Detentionaire
really
does.
good characters.
So if you start watching Detentionaire and you start watching it and you're like, man, these characters are annoying. They're all such stereotypes. They're so over the top stereotypes. They're annoying. I don't like them. Just keep watching. The whole show revolves around introducing these characters who are high school stereotypes and then breaking those stereotypes and totally flipping it around. Like that's the whole point. Like literally like part of the like plot of the show is about how kids are in certain cliques and certain stereotypes and then like they use that as part of the brainwashing and how like you can influence people with that, but you can also like break that. It's like a big part of the show. So if you start watching it and you think everyone's such an annoying stereotype, that's on purpose and it changes. Like I guarantee characters you think are really annoying at first, you will love them. Speaking of, my favorite character is Cam.
Yeah.
Hey, Cam.
Honestly, he was one of my inspirations.
Nice. You start watching it, I almost guarantee you will think Cam is annoying in the first episode. I love Cam. I think he's annoying in the first episode. Like, he's so over the top, like, he's trying to be this, like, cool gangster kid, and he, like, thinks he's cool, and he wants to, like, flirt with the ladies, but, like, his character gets so expanded on throughout the series, and you just, like, fall in love with him, and, like, what's so annoying about him in the first few episodes becomes so endearing, and like, you see that it's, like, there's so much, like, he's putting on this act of trying to be this gangster. It's not like he's an annoying, badly written gangster character. He's trying to be this character, and he's like
and he's just so insecure.
He's so insecure.
Just wants to be
also
liked.
that episode where he stays home sick or whatever, and he watches the telenovelas and like tries to get the mailman to come in because he's so bored being home alone.
God, I love Cam so much, and he's such a good example of this. Like, you think he's annoying at first. And my second favorite character, which is also an example of this, is Brandy.
Oh, I love her.
Brandy, also, first few episodes, she's like, oh, like part of the cool girls, and like she's like, and you like think she's gonna be so annoying.
Even the first season.
Most of the first season, but later on, she becomes fantastic, and there's so much depth to her character, and like, it's just, this show is so good at introducing these characters you think are bad, and then making them so good, and then that, like, what you thought was annoying and bad about them is like part of what makes them great. So yeah, Cam and Brandy are my favorites, but honestly, I love like all of the characters. Like, Cyrus, you don't meet him till later, but I love him. I love Grayson. I love Holger. I love Lee. I love Jenny and the Outcast. Everyone's so good.
What I really like about Kimmy is, although that you see she does have redeeming characters and the characters.
Brandy or Kimmy?
Kimmy.
Okay, Kimmy's...
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
alpha
later.
Yeah.
clique girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you see, like, oh, she's not so bad, but at the end, she's still not a good person. Like, she's not awful, like, as evil as you thought she is or whatever, but she's still not a great person.
Yeah. It's true. It's a good, like, they, like, play with stereotypes, but they also don't, like, they still acknowledge those characteristics, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like, they don't just, like, completely flip it and, like, oh, all that stuff about them,
Yeah,
completely not true at all. Like,
not
no.
everybody's a good person.
Yeah.
Just because you don't necessarily fit a stereotype, you're still
Yeah.
not necessarily a good person.
And you still have flaws, and
Yeah.
they just does characters so well. That's why I love it so much. Like, the plot is crazy and wild and fun, but the reason I really love it is because I love the characters.
Really good characters.
Really good characters. So yeah, favorite characters, all of them. Okay, question 2, starting with Cam. When and how did you get into this fandom?
Okay. If I remember correctly, it was September 2011. I'm not 100% sure.
Something like that.
Yeah. But it was...
It's been a while.
Actually, I think it might have been August. And it was Teletoon, and they were running the first episode, or the pilot even, maybe, as like a preview or whatever for what was coming.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and I got really excited.
It was like when the show was first
Yeah.
starting. Like, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
airing the pilot, being like, this is a new show on Teletoon. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember if I got the information wrong or this is how it was marketed, but I specifically remember it being marketed as a 12-part miniseries.
Yes, I remember that too.
12-episode miniseries.
I swear they marketed that way at first. They were like, it's a 12-part miniseries, get
Yeah.
ready.
So,
For this
I
cool
don't know
new
if this is
miniseries.
Mandela effect
Yeah.
or it actually was. But, so it was, I remember it being marketed as a 12-part miniseries.
I remember that too.
And then I got hyped for it. I thought it was cool. And then I started watching it, and I kept up to date with it the whole time it was on, which was like 4 years or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because I remember when I started watching, Lee and the gang were 2 years older than me. And once I finished, I was 2 years older than them.
So it aired for about 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was 4 seasons, so that makes sense. It probably aired about a season a year. Yeah. And then I remember that you watched it first. Like, I remember seeing it advertised on Teletoon, but I was like, it sounds cool, but I didn't really care either way. And then I remember you watched the first, like, little bit, and it was like, you watched most of season 1. And then I remember it was the episode where they go to the, like, Splat Factory Island.
Oh, God.
And
yeah.
I sat down and watched that one with you. And I was, for some reason, like, that was the first one I'd really, like, watched, and I was like, whoa, this show is, like, so much cooler than I thought. And then we went and looked them up online and watched all of the episodes, and then from then on, I was, like, keeping up with it as soon as they came out. And the interesting thing was, after season 1, they always aired them in Australia before they aired them in Canada, even though it's a Canadian show. For whatever reason, the Australian network aired it first, so we would always watch it online as it aired in Australia, and then, like, a few months later, watch it on TV when it aired in Canada again, for the following seasons. But yeah, I remember I got into it because you were watching it, Cam, and
Yeah, and I remember telling you about it, and you were like, I don't
was like,
really care. And
Yeah.
then you got really
and then I got
into
really
it.
into it, because then after I first started, and then I looked it up on Tumblr and found this, like, little fandom, but really strong fandom, and I got so into all the theories everyone was making, and then I really, really loved it.
So basically, this is all my fault.
Yes, it's all your fault. How did you get into it, Lenni? We told you about
You
it, right?
made me watch it.
Yeah.
I was at your house, be like, we're gonna watch this, and I was like, okay.
I think it might have been when you were there for the writing camp.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was
yeah.
definitely that.
Yeah.
No, because we were in the hotel
Mm-hmm.
in Penticton, and we saw it on the TV, and I was like, that's a cool art style, because it has a really fun,
It has a
cool,
really cool art
cool, it's a
style.
really cool animation style, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. And then you're like, oh, it's Detentionaire, and I'm like, what's that? And you kind of explained it to me, but kind of in a weird way.
It's very hard to explain.
It's hard to explain without spoiling it.
Oh yeah, if you don't want to spoil it, it's so hard
You really
to
can't explain it.
Because you don't even, like, know that it's a conspiracy show at
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, high school thing.
Yeah.
But then you were like, it's really good, we should watch it when we go back. And I was like, well, okay, sure. Because we had like another week up there.
Yeah.
And then we started watching it. I got so into it. We
Yeah.
watched all 3 first seasons. I don't think season
Yeah,
4 was
season
out.
4 probably wasn't out yet.
Yeah, we watched the first 3 seasons in like 2 days.
Yeah.
And then I think the next year,
Yeah.
we watched it all together again, and then watched the 4th season. We
I
rewatched
think
the whole.
so.
Yeah, we
We
rewatched
watched
the whole
the 4th
thing.
season together.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that must have been it. But
Yeah.
I watched it at your house.
Yeah.
God, it's so good. So really, it's all Cam's fault. He found it first, and
You're
then we
welcome.
spread the love for this. Such a good show. It's such a good show. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. It really is. All right, Cam. out of this amazing show, what is your favorite part? It can either be like an episode or a moment or whatever, just like a part. What's your favorite part? What makes you like, yeah, that's the moment? If you need to think about it and Lenni has one ready, she can go first.
Think about it too.
I don't know. I mean, humor-wise, I'd probably say the episode where I think it's the seventh episode, but everyone's sick.
Oh yeah, that's
But
seven.
Barrage is sick as well.
Oh yeah,
And
Barrage is the principal. He's a cyborg.
I forgot about him until now. Yeah, and he's fighting this imaginary, maybe not imaginary, snot general guy, and it's just he's lost it, and it's just I love him.
That is
But I really love him.
Barrage is a great character. Like I said, all the characters are so good.
He's kind of Snape-esque, like not a great
Yeah,
guy,
he's definitely
and you
a
think
bad
he's against
person.
them, but then he's kind of with them, but he's still not a great guy.
He's still a bad guy.
And I'm pretty sure he ate his own foot.
I think that's
And
implied
I think in
Yeah.
Afghanistan
or something.
In a
He, like,
desert,
in-
he
oh,
ate his
in
own
the
foot.
desert, he was a soldier, so I think it's probably Afghanistan because
Yeah.
the show was set in like
Yeah.
2010.
Yeah.
He ate his own foot and became a cyborg.
And also he has a goose in his office.
Yeah,
Like
the goose
or
saved his life in Afghanistan.
Yeah, or
something.
like a duck. Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
He's
very-
a weird guy.
And he really loves popcorn.
I forgot.
Yeah, he likes red licorice
Oh yeah.
or
He's-
whatever.
he's such a
I
good
don't
character.
remember
Yeah.
much.
He's so weird.
about
Also,
him,
like
but-
later, you end up finding out that he's like kind of being controlled by Finwich. I
Yeah.
think because
He's
Finwich
being
turned
mind
him into a
controlled.
cyborg.
The vice principal's controlling him in the first two seasons.
Right. Oh right, yeah. It's
VP Victoria. I love
VP
her
Victoria.
so much.
God, there's so much. The other thing about it that really sucks is it got not exactly canceled. It just didn't get renewed
Yeah.
after the
Yeah.
fourth season, even though there was a lot more plot that could have been explored.
They wanted to do 8 seasons.
Yes, and they
wanted
wanted
to
to-
have him go to college, and I'm so mad.
I'm so
Yeah,
mad we never got them
fourth
in
season
college.
Ends weird.
Yeah, the fourth season definitely ends that they wanted to keep going. It
Well,
literally
yeah, they
ends with a
open it.
cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Not
mean,
just-
kind of a cliffhanger.
Well,
A
not just-
lizard man crawls out of the basement.
Well, not
and takes over
necessarily
the world.
cliffhanger. They open it. They end it with an opening to way more
Yeah.
plot.
Like, they
Yeah.
kind of resolve several things, but then they, like, open this, like, lizard apocalypse, and then ends, and they wanted another season, but they didn't get renewed, so it ends with, like, we got some stuff resolved, but there's, like, still a lot of questions, so it kind of sucks
Yeah.
because it's, like, in a mystery show where you have all these mysteries and questions, we didn't get all of our questions answered,
Yeah.
so there's still a lot of things we
The
don't
plot
totally
does
know.
get resolved. They open kind of.
Yeah, the main plot gets
plot.
resolved, but there's still a lot of questions that like are little things that were like sort of hints at further mysteries that we don't
Yeah.
get answers to, which sucks. But yeah,
And a lizard apocalypse.
and a lizard apocalypse. But yeah, I almost said level 7. Level 7.
Level 7.
Episode 7 is really funny for that, but it's also
The most.
like.
It's the
It's
where
the one that
plot
kickstarts
starts.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely like if you want to tell someone to watch the show, you say blah, blah, blah. If you want someone to watch the show, you say like, just try it. Even if you don't think you like it, watch till episode 7. If episode 7 doesn't hook you, it's probably not for you.
Yeah.
But if you get to episode 7 and it's the type of show you're gonna like it when you get to episode 7, because that's when you really realize like where the plot's going and what the like type of show it is. So yeah, episode 7 is a really good one. But I think one of my favorite parts, and it's a very small, unimportant part, but it's I can't remember what season it's in. It's kind of early, I think. When Lee and Biffy are doing bad Scottish accents at each other. And it's my favorite moment because it's such good like character acting. Like you just feel like they're real people
Yeah.
joking around with each other, and it's like the best example of like how good these characters are on the show, that they feel like real people. You watch that scene and you're like, I feel like I just watched my friends joking around with each other.
Yeah.
Like they don't feel like characters, they feel like people. And I feel like that moment for some reason always sticks out in my mind when they're like doing bad Scottish accents with each other, where I'm like, I feel like they're real people and they're my friends and I love them. So I feel like for some reason that moment always sticks in my head as one of my favorite moments in the show. That little tiny scene.
Yeah.
They're like in a closet or something. Doing Scottish accents.
Biffy and Lee do weird stuff.
Biffy and Lee are in love, and I love
Like
them.
they all get up to weird stuff together as the show goes on. And Biffy and Lee are just kind of off doing something weird. Like, no matter what's happening, it's like, what are you doing?
they do weird stuff.
But it feels like they're just actually friends and just like
Yeah.
have nice conversations.
I love their
and just,
friendship.
But like
Yeah.
mess with
'Cause
each
it's like-
other and
A
Yeah.
weird kind of social outcast mathlete
Yeah.
and like the stereotypical jock guy are like
Yeah.
best buds and hang out all the time.
I know, and they just like have moments like that where like you really buy that they're friends and they tease each other and they're not always 100% nice to each other, but like in a fun way, and like they just have such a good relationship. And the character relationships in this show. Not only are the characters written well, the relationships between the characters are written really well. They all have very different relationships with each other, and they're all unique and believable. And I love them. Lenni, what's your favorite part?
I guess it's not really a part. I really like the gradual sort of worsening of the show. Like, and the show starts as like a normal high school, and then by the 4th season, they're living in like a weird jail, like cyberpunk jail. The school like becomes a weird jail with like this cool cyber aesthetic of like,
and there's like a
robot
submarine.
monsters.
Yeah,
there's like like steampunk blimps. Like the whole show is such a weird, bizarre aesthetic that just looks so cool.
That's a very good.
It's not really a part, but I love it.
Just the gradual escalation of everything.
Yeah,
that's really true. And like you also, I feel like you slowly learn not just like that their school is getting weirder, but that the world they live in the first few episodes, it's like, this is just real life.
It's Toronto.
This is just Toronto, IRL. And then as it goes on, you start to realize, like, this is a very altered reality in, like, little ways.
Maybe it's Toronto.
There's, like...
I've never been there.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's just how Toronto is.
Maybe Toronto is pretty cyberpunk. But yeah, it's true. Like, there's a very gradual... And so you buy into the world because it happens so gradually that you're like, yeah, I do think that lizards are controlling the government.
Yeah, like after I finished watching season 1 or season 3 and went back and watched it all together in season 1, it was like, oh, that's a normal high school. Where are the robot janitors?
Yeah.
Where's the electrified fence that keeps them all in?
Yeah, and like you're not quite sure, but I feel like everyone knows. Like, I'm not sure what the rest of like the world is like, but like they don't seem to think it's that weird that they have like robot janitors and like floating eyeballs watching them in their high school, and like everyone's like, well, we're imprisoned in high school, but everyone's just kind of okay with it. Like they don't seem to think it's like super weird or anything.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not just their school that's world, it's like the world of the show is weird. And that's really cool.
And you don't know how much is hidden and how much everybody just knows about, because you pretty much only see, for the most part, the high school.
Yeah. You see a little bit of the town, like sometimes you see their houses, but like 90% of the show happens in the high school.
So you have no idea what the rest of the universe is like, and it's interesting to think about.
Yeah. It's such a cool setting. It's got such a cool aesthetic and vibe, and it's like, cyberpunk, and like, it's a very trippy, neat show. And
everything's like lime green. Everything's like, the colors are really muted, and there's a lot of like bright and like strong greens.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
You also, if you're watching the first episode, the art is pretty much the same, but the animation gets a lot smoother in later episodes. If you watch the pilot, it's really realize how choppy the animation is.
Oh, the background art.
The background art is gorgeous.
Yeah, the characters are animated like a certain style. It's like when you watch like an old Disney movie and the backgrounds are painted and you can tell what's going to move because it's like drawn differently. It's kind of like that. The backgrounds are drawn like this really cool, like sketchy sort of style that like looks like the main style, but it's really pretty.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it.
It's hard to explain, but it really gives the show a very unique vibe, and like the backgrounds are very, very gorgeous.
The art style, I wouldn't say it's sketchy. Or like the only word like sketchy or like gritty almost, like
it's a little bit gritty,
and it's like harsher lines and more square shapes instead of like smooth, and it's just really very interesting. Yeah.
It's very appealing to watch. I've heard some people say they don't like the animation style very much.
You have to get used to it.
But and some people, like, I know people who like the show and who've said the animation style is one of the drawbacks. I disagree. I think the animation style
it's just something so different from like the bright, exciting bubblegumness that is like Adventure Time. Not that there's anything wrong with Adventure Time. Like animation is beautiful, but it's just something so different.
Yeah.
It's like what's that show where it's like Canadian as well and they're in the mall?
16.
It's a really similar art style to 16, but the colors and like saturation.
Yeah.
And just the way they, like the grittiness of it.
There's something, there's that, and I don't know what it is, and maybe they're all might be the same studio, but 16, Detentionaire, Total Drama Island, Stoked, which is basically the same as 16.
But that's like Tofino.
Yeah.
It's always better.
Yes, it's Tofino version of 16. But yeah, all of those are Canadian shows, and they all have like a sort of similar art style, and I don't know why. Like, it's very interesting. Like, you could see those, you're like, oh yeah, that's a Canadian cartoon. But out of those, Detentionaire is definitely the most unique and the most, like, a little bit gritty, and like you said, it's like more saturated, like less saturated colors, and it's my favorite out of those, like animation wise and plot wise. But yeah, it's got that, if you know that Canadian cartoon aesthetic, it's kind of got that, but even cooler.
And grossology. I didn't really watch it, but that one is a lot like it.
It's a bit. It's got a bit of the same aesthetic as that. And Randy Cunningham, 9th Grade Ninja. I don't know if you heard that one. I don't know if that one's Canadian, but it has a similar style to that as well. But yeah. Anyways, it's got a very unique animation style, and I really like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Question 4. Cam, do you contribute to this fandom? Do you make fan art, cosplay, fan fiction, whatever? And
No.
if so, what?
I'm sure I've drawn fan art of it. I know I have at some point, but I don't really contribute to any.
Yeah, you're not
fandom.
so much a fandom person.
I don't have a Tumblr. I don't really draw any fan art. I don't write fan fiction. And like I'll see stuff that like comes up and I'm like think it's cool, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm part of any fandom. I'm just
fair enough.
I like things.
Yeah.
But I don't like really, really like things enough
you don't
to
do
like
what I do.
dedicate my life to. Yeah.
Yeah. Lenny?
No.
I feel bad asking this question because like half the people I've asked are just like no, and I'm like, well, that just sounds like I asked this question to brag about what I do, but I have friends who do contribute to fandoms, man.
No, I wish I did more fandom stuff, but I can't draw, and I don't.
You can draw if you want to.
I can draw stick figures.
Do like your McCree figures.
Oh God. I've drawn some bad Overwatch. And I don't really write. I like to sew, so I guess cosplay.
Yeah.
But I haven't done anything for this fandom. But I do like to make cosplay.
We should do Detentionaire cosplays.
Would be
No
fun.
one would know what we were dressed as.
No one would know what we were, but it would be
good.
fun. Yeah, I like to sew.
Yes, I've contributed a lot. This is, like I said earlier, one of my main, biggest fandom. One of the first fandoms I got into big time after One Piece and Homestuck. And I love it. And it's probably, of all the fandom experiences I've had of, like, the actual people in the fandom and stuff, it's my favorite. So I've, like, written fan fiction and drawn fan art and a bunch of stuff. But yeah. Shout out to anyone from the OG Detentionaire fandom who was there back in like 2011, 2012 when we were all like making up cool ship names and all contributing. Shout out to you guys because you made my fandom experience super, super great. And I love it a lot. It's a good fandom. It's still kind of a fandom, but like the show's been over for several years now, so like once in a while will crop up on my Tumblr and stuff, but it's not like active the way it used to be because there's only so much you can talk about a show that's ended, unfortunately. But in its prime when it was airing, that was good times. Every single time an episode came out, everyone was like theorizing because it's really a mystery show. Like I feel like we haven't talked about the mysteries that much because it's kind of hard.
It's built for theorizing.
It's completely built for theorizing. Every episode builds up new mysteries.
And sometimes
it's hard to. Sorry to interrupt. It's hard to like binge watch it because part of the fun is like sitting there and being like, oh, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, it was. I'm so glad I watched it as was airing because I feel like that made it so much more fun to always wonder. Like it is fun to binge watch, but I'm so glad I got that experience of wondering what was gonna happen and waiting every week and talking to people about my theories and seeing the things we thought either come true or not come true. Like that was so fun.
And it's great because it's almost like no theory is too outlandish.
Yes.
Like you'll have like a crazy theory or whatever. And then it turns out to be right. And it's like, I never expected anything like that to actually happen. It was just almost a joke.
Yeah.
But it's just so cool to see, like, crazy theories that were real.
Yeah. And because it was so crazy. And as the show went on, it just got crazier and crazier. And things that in the first season you wouldn't have even occurred to you were happening by the last season. So... Like, just it gets wild, guys. There's literally lizard people and a giant old pyramid and mind control and, like, it's the Illuminati, guys. It's the local
Illuminati.
child discovers Illuminati. It's so good. All right, next question. Cam, what's your favorite ship or just relationship between characters? Or ship?
Probably.
This is a new question, by the way. If you've listened to my previous ones, I'm pretty sure I hadn't asked this before, but I thought it was a good one to add because ships are cool and character relationships are interesting. So,
I'm not usually a strong shipper or anything. Probably Jenny and Tina.
Jenny and Tina's great.
Yeah.
Like, Tina and Lee is wonderful, but like Jenny and Tina, something about
so
it.
Cute.
Yeah.
It's almost got like that Kurosami vibe, like same fighting over the same guy, and then they realize, hey, I like you.
Yeah.
And it's just, I really like Jenny.
I love
Jenny.
How much she transforms over the show, but Jenny and Tina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about
I
them.
love Jenny
That's
and
a
Tina.
good show.
Jenny, I love Jenny. Jenny is an example of a girl character who is allowed to be gross.
Yeah.
This is something I think I've talked about before, but something that annoys me in media is that no one lets girl characters be kind of gross, but still a good character. Like, guy characters can make like gross jokes and be kind of gross and be kind of dirty and still be a good character, but it's like, I feel like in media, if a girl is gross, she's automatically like either like a horrible gross character you're supposed to hate, or she has to be prissy and nice and pretty all the time. And Jenny's not. Jenny gets to be loud and gross, and her defining character trait when you first meet her is that she picks her nose all the time because of a curse, but still. And like, and then even after, she's like so loud and brash, and I love Jenny. Jenny is a female character they wish we saw more of, characters like her.
She's just so outspoken.
Yeah. And I feel like she brings out such a great side of Tina.
Yeah, because Tina's so timid and just like quiet and like afraid to do anything.
But by the end of the show, she's not.
Yeah.
She's
I
not.
love her like journey.
Yeah, and then she just becomes so
like
feisty.
beating up her
and-
co-host.
yeah.
Yes. And I feel like Jenny is part of what brings that out in her.
Yeah.
And I love that. Because the thing about Lee and Tina is
They're both like
they're cute,
shy.
but they're such a like, I feel like they don't necessarily bring out the most interesting parts of each other.
It's just kind of like a middle school romance where they hold hands and send notes, but it's nothing much more than that.
Like, my favorite way of interpreting the show is that Tina and Jenny have had this, or not Tina and Jenny, Tina and Lee have had this, like, kind of like, we had a crush on each other, but we never really did anything about it, and we were kind of shy and whatever, kind of thing for years. And then, as the show progresses, Lee gets a lot closer to Biffy, Tina gets a lot closer to Jenny, and then in the finale of the fourth one, Lee and Tina finally, like, kiss, and they have their moment, and then I imagine it being, like, they had this moment, and then they were kind of like, you know what, like, I think that crush thing we had is kind of over. I think we're just friends now. And then Tina is off with Jenny, and Lee is off with Biffy, and Tina and Lee are like, yeah, we're just friends now. We kind of had a crush, but we didn't act on it when we actually had a crush, and now we've kind of moved on and become different people, because they become such different people over the course of the show.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite way of interpreting sort of the character relationships.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's a legitimate way of interpreting how their characters change over the show.
Yeah, it's realistic too.
Yeah. And like it's realistic because the person you had a crush on in middle school isn't necessarily someone you're actually going to want to date in high school. Like, you change. So I agree. Tina and Jenny's like one of my favorites. Good. And Lee and Biffy, if you couldn't tell, is my other favorite.
That's my favorite. I think just the like juxtaposition of them is just really fun.
Yes.
And they have a lot of fun together. Like,
they do.
I always pick like a friendship or a relationship or just any sort of being with people that you can like have fun with and like listen up with and just genuinely enjoy spending time with them.
Yeah.
Like, that's much more interesting than like a tragic fated romance or whatever. It's like, that's not fun. Like, do you even enjoy hanging out?
I know.
Like, you have to like spending time with someone. You can tell that Biffy and Lee like genuinely enjoy each other's company.
Yes.
Like,
And the
hang
whole,
out.
like, when Lee got him Cyrus's hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was such a nerd for
Also,
it.
Biffy like bridal carries Lee like a lot.
Oh, yeah.
just
They
'cause.
touch each other a lot. They're just sort of like always sort of carrying
off
him
each
around,
other,
hanging
yeah.
off him.
Biffy's also super in love with Cyrus, though.
Well,
Yeah.
that's like a
That's
celebrity
a
crush.
Celebrity crush.
Yeah. No, I totally agree that all my favorite ships are almost always characters who genuinely get along really well and have this really strong friendship. And like some people really like hate ships or whatever, or rivalry type ships. And Tina and Jenny start out as a rivalry, but I think the reason I actually ship them is because that rivalry turns into a friendship.
Yeah.
I think if they were just straight up rivals, I wouldn't like it as much.
No.
But yeah, the one that I do like, and I like the dynamic. I don't know if they'd actually be a good couple long term, but Cam and Brandy have such an interesting development.
They have a good dynamic. It's real good.
And the best part about it, my favorite part about it, is that in the really early episodes, when Lee and Brandy kind of have a thing, Lee is just so, like, he's not trying to be mean or anything, but he just doesn't recognize Brandy's feelings. He just thinks, like, oh, she's some cool girl, and it doesn't really matter because she doesn't care about me, and this is just sort of a weird thing that happened, and he makes her really sad and uncomfortable, and he doesn't realize it. And Cam is actually there and being like, hey, she's a person, she has feelings, and he isn't even, like, trying to flirt with Brandy or anything early on. He's just being like, Lee's kind of being a dick to you kind of by accident, but still, and, like, being nice to her and treating her like a person. And then, like, later they date, they kind of have, like, a weird rivalry kind of dating, but also like each other. But, like, I feel like that foundation of where it started is
But
really
I feel
good.
like they'd just be the kind of couple who argues, not necessarily fights,
Yeah.
because they, like, stand up to each other. They're both
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah.
But, like, deep down, they still, like, really care about each other.
Yeah.
It's just, not dull.
Yeah.
Like, not that there's anything wrong
Yeah.
with not arguing, but I
Yeah.
mean, they'd be kind of a couple that would argue about
Yeah.
cheese, but then laugh about it,
Yeah.
and then not care afterwards.
Yeah, and they both are very interesting because they both have really big egos, but also really bad self-esteem.
Mhm.
If that makes
they
sense.
compliment that.
And I feel like they both take each other's egos down a notch, but also watch out for each other's feelings. Because I feel like they both keep each other in check with their big egos, but when they realize the other person is actually really, actually has like hit a nerve, they're really good about helping each other out. And I feel like that actually really, like, it's never said outright in the show, but I feel like you really see that dynamic in the show, and that's
Yeah.
why their relationship is actually so interesting.
They seem to have a really like grown-up dynamic for high schoolers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really well-developed and just kind of adult relationship.
Yeah.
It seems to really work.
Yeah. So Cam and Brandy is a rare example of a canon ship that I really like and think it was done really well, because I find a lot of the time in TV shows, canon ships tend to just sort of be, well, that's the main girl and the main guy, and I guess they fall in love now.
Either dull
Yeah.
or unhealthy.
Yeah, it's either
Yeah.
dull, it's either a boring relationship or an unhealthy relationship, but I feel like Cam and Brandy is interesting and well done and complex and could be healthy if they do it the right way and everything. So it is a kind of a rare example of a canon ship that I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
Cam and Brandy, Biffy and Lee, Tina and Jenny. It's probably the primo ships. There's a lot
Yeah.
of other good side
A lot
ships.
of good ones.
But those are probably my favorites. Yeah, I think ships are so interesting. Some people write off shipping as like, oh, I just want people to kiss. But I'm like, I think exploring people's relationships and shows and
It's
stuff is so
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
There's so much, and like whether you ship it as like romantic or just you want to explore characters' relationships, like there's so much interesting that can come out of exploring the way characters interact with
Yeah.
each other. Like that's such an important part of shows. It's not just are the characters interesting, it's like is the way they interact with each other interesting.
Yeah.
And I think Detentionaire does that really well.
Yeah.
In case you couldn't tell from the way we just analyzed Brandy
Well,
and Cam's whole
also,
thing.
in a sense, it covers shipping itself.
It does, actually. That's sort
and like
of very
how
much
obscure
addressed.
some crack ships can be.
Yeah.
But like actually work almost.
That's true, because in the
Yeah.
first season, part of the plot twist is that they're essentially brainwashing kids into dating people that they would never actually date. To see, basically, it's like they're testing the brainwashing on high schoolers and being like, if we can convince a cool, like, alpha cool girl to date some ugly nerd, then we know that our brainwashing must work, because teenagers would never do that otherwise, is kind of the thing. And so it addresses that, and then, like, later there's, like, the thing with the phones, or is that the same?
That's the end of the
That's
second
the
season. I
I
second
think
think.
it's the same,
Same
thing.
plot.
The phones are what
Oh,
The
control-
right.
phones are what
yeah.
brainwashes you.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, it's like, that is sort of like a plot line, but then it like gets addressed that like, it's not just, oh, you're brainwashing teens into breaking their cliques. It's like, people actually do interact with people you don't always expect them to, and like, relationships can work with people you wouldn't think it would work with, and like, yeah, I kind of forgot about that, but that is kind of actually like a thing,
Yeah.
like a theme in the show. Like, it really does explore. It's like, it's the like teen drama high school things almost always explore like dating and relationships, but I feel like
Yeah.
Detentionaire does it in the most crazy, interesting way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, usually they don't do it with brainwashing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, God, it's a good show. It's such a
Real
good show.
good.
So, this question is, for a currently airing show, I would have said, do you have any theories about what's going to happen next? But since it's over, and I think this is going to be an interesting question for Detentionaire in particular, what were some, like, wild theories you had as it was airing that were either proven right or wrong? Or, like, what were some theories you had? Do you remember?
I know one theory that was not proven either way.
Yeah.
Holger, which we haven't even
Yes.
mentioned.
God, we haven't talked about Holger.
Holger is amazing.
Right, talk about Holger. Talk about Holger. We'll come back to this.
Yes.
Okay, yes, Holger is a super eccentric
Yeah.
exchange student, and Holger and what's the girl's name?
Greta.
Greta.
Holger and Greta are sweet, but also
Yes.
like not necessarily super healthy, which
Yes.
isn't. Greta and Steve.
Greta and Steve.
That's the epitome of dating outside of your clique, like it just happening.
Yeah.
And it being healthier than dating inside your clique.
Yeah. So to summarize that, in case you haven't seen it or you don't remember, Greta and Holger were both like weird kids who dated for a while, but then Greta ends up leaving Holger to date.
She starts tutoring
Yeah.
one of the football players,
Yeah.
and they start dating, and they're actually really sweet to each
Yeah.
other, whereas Holger was quite possessive and almost
Yeah. Kind of weird.
competitive about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Steve was just like, no, I just like her.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was very interesting. God, there's so many interesting character dynamics. And it's like
Yeah.
at the end of it, you're almost like, I don't know what I think of this. Greta kind of did do something dickish to Holger,
Yeah.
but Holger was kind of being dickish about it too. And there's not always necessarily a good guy and a bad guy in relationships and stuff.
Yeah.
And that. So yeah. But anyways, yes. What were you? Holger's the weird exchange student
With
from-
glorious hair.
God.
glorious
his
hair.
hair.
I love that Lee loves Holger's hair. There's like multiple
Yeah.
scenes where Lee is very like
And, like,
obsessed with Holger's hair.
Saves his hair.
It's like beautiful flowing hair.
Beautiful blonde hair.
I mean, everyone else is obsessed with
everyone
it too.
loves it.
That's
Everyone loves his hair.
He's got some good
yeah.
expressions. There's one that I use like in my daily life. I forget what it is now.
Oh, yeah.
Floofle shoot.
No, there's something
That's a
that
good
Holger
one.
says that I always say now. I don't remember what it is because
Jeez.
I just say it every day.
Jeez, Holger's got amazing
I
expressions.
don't
He's
know what it is
iconic.
now.
He's iconic. He's like just from somewhere ambiguous in Europe, and has a weird accent and says weird expressions, and he's just like
what is
a weird dude. And like I guess he's sort of a parody of like
Scandinavia.
the weird foreign European, but like he's just so fun, and everyone loves him because he's kind of adorable.
Mm-hmm.
He's
And
just lovable, and he's naive,
he's
and
Holger.
he's just excited about everything.
kerfloofled.
Kerfloofled.
He says kerfloofle shanked, and I always say
Yeah.
kerfloofled like as a verb
Yeah.
now. So it kind of came from Holger.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my theory is
Yeah.
he knows more than he's letting
Oh,
on.
yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not, I don't know, I wouldn't say evil, but he's working for someone.
Yeah.
Especially in the last few episodes.
Yes.
He keeps
Yeah.
making really obvious mistakes that
Yeah.
like put them in danger, and he's like, oh, whoops, my bad. But it really seems like he's sabotaging them. And like if you look
Yeah.
at it, you can see how it could be that the whole time he is like in on something and
Yeah.
sabotaging
Yeah,
them.
because he's
And I don't trust him. I
'cause he's
love
like a
him,
silly
but I don't
character.
trust him.
Yeah.
But throughout the show, he has just, like moments where you're like, oh, he's actually a lot smarter than you
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. And if you
So-
look back,
Yeah.
there's like moment like in really early on, he like knows this tunnel that he shows to Lee,
Yeah.
and he says like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just found it, but it's like, did he?
Did
and like,
you?
there's just little moments where he like does things that you like you could just write off as like he's a quirky dude who just does random stuff. But like, yeah, towards the end, those last few episodes of the finale, he's doing a lot of suspicious
And then
things.
there's the whole
Yeah.
stuff with the eclipse. I don't remember exactly what, because like he saw
there's a
the
blimp.
there's a blimp, and then there's the
I
eclipse
remember.
that like comes in and like blinds. He thinks he gets blinded or something. But I remember there being a moment where there was like just a second of him like not being himself. Like he was oddly serious.
Oh,
And he
wasn't
was
it
just-
when the teacher who's always sleeping was actually cursed, and then the teacher woke up during the eclipse? Didn't he like possess Holger?
I don't know.
Didn't he possess someone?
I don't
I don't
remember.
know, but I
don't
remember there
remember.
being a moment around the
Wait, stop
eclipse.
hitting the table.
Sorry.
The microphone's gonna pick it up.
Around the eclipse, that it was just like it catches a glimpse of him not being
Yeah.
himself.
So-
and it's
yeah.
just-
If you
there's
just
a few of
There's
those.
few weird. If you pay
Yeah.
really close attention throughout the whole series, there's just little moments where you're like, I don't trust Holger,
Yeah.
and it never comes to fruition because again, it got canceled before we really knew everything. But that's definitely something I thought
And
too.
he's the one that didn't really break out of the stereotype. He still
Yeah.
kind of stayed the same.
That's true.
So I feel like they could have been working on that. Like,
Yeah.
always seems all goofy and quirky, but really.
But
Yeah.
really.
There's
in
something
on
going
something.
on. Yeah, totally. Because you're right. I never thought about that. But
Oh.
he's like one of the only characters that really doesn't
that is
change
true.
very much. He's exactly the same at the end as he was at the beginning.
Kimmy's mom's armor, he just puts
Oh,
it on and
yes!
flies
Right.
it.
Kimmy's
Yeah.
mom has like a mech suit
Yeah.
for some reason.
Yeah. But
And
then
she's
he-
because she's evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's part
But
of this
then
like Illuminati.
He just puts it on and can fly it.
and can
He just-
control it somehow.
Yeah.
He just knows how to do it.
Yeah. And again, you can be like, oh, Holger's just quirky and can figure random stuff out. But it's like, there's just too many
Yeah.
things. And especially because, like, at the end, there's a moment where they're trying to get out of an elevator
Yeah.
into an elevator, and he, like, almost makes them get caught. And,
Yeah.
like, he's just like, oops, silly Holger. But, like, you're like,
Or like he presses the button and
Yeah,
he's
you-
like, "Oh, my bad."
but it's, like, too
Mhm.
convenient.
Yeah.
And it feels like, and I totally thought that it was going to be, like, at the end, during the finale, like, something, oh my god, Holger does something. But it still doesn't.
Yeah.
But it totally could have been, like, the next season they were building up
Yeah.
to, like, something about Holger.
Yeah,
and we'll
just-
never know.
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Luckily, is it the creator or one of the
Yeah,
creators
one of the
was
creators
still
was-
quite vocal.
Yeah.
And he will answer questions.
Answered questions for a
Yeah.
while. Like
Yeah.
people were asking questions on Twitter, and he answered quite a few. That's how we knew like Lee's name, the serpent Lee, and like there was a few other things he answered. That's how we knew the stuff about how he wanted to go all the way to college. That's how we knew the fact that originally there was going to be a plot about Cam coming out as gay.
Yeah.
That's the thing is that
I know.
my favorite relationship with Cam and Brandy, and he's the one character that they were actually going to
I
make
know,
gay.
I'm always so
Yeah.
tormented because I would have loved him to like come out
Yes.
as gay, but I also love him and Brandon.
I
I'm
know.
So,
So I just had Cam as bi, but
Yeah.
still the fact that it's so interesting to know that originally they ended up changing their mind because the network didn't want them to. But they were originally, when they conceived Cam, he was going to have a coming out story, and that makes so much sense with early Cam because he puts so much
Yeah.
emphasis on trying to flirt with girls like way over the
Yeah.
top, and he's so like trying to be cool and manly and gangster, and like it's such an interesting to look at that early Cam and know that that's what they originally intended his character arc to be. It's such an interesting thing, and it tears me up too that like he was gonna have this coming out story, but the most interesting straight relationship in the show is Cam and Brandy.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting. I always wonder too because I don't know at what point they dropped it. Like I don't know if they were making the first season and they still had it in mind, or if they totally dropped it early on. But I wonder if the character he was going to have a romance with is someone we actually meet in the show, and if so, who?
Yeah.
My theory is Cyrus, but
There's Cyrus, but what was his name? The kid in the wheelchair.
Grayson. Also
Grayson.
Grayson.
Yeah.
Could have been Grayson or Cyrus. Cam definitely has interesting
Yeah.
interactions with them.
Yeah.
Both of them. There's the one point where, and it actually involves both of them, where because Grayson is blackmailing Cam, and he blackmails Cam into singing a romance song with Cyrus. And that whole scene, like, I think rewatching it, it wasn't actually supposed to be that they were singing romantically to each other, but it kind of reads that way at first. Like, they're singing, like, this romance song to each other. So, I don't know. I'm very curious if, like, he was supposed to have a romance with those characters, or if it was going to be a character we never met.
Yeah.
Or if it was going to be, like, he had a crush on, like, Lee or Holger, but it wasn't reciprocated or something. Like, I'm so curious, but we'll never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the creator did answer some questions like that, but didn't answer everything, because the thing that sucks is that when the creator was answering questions, there was still a chance that they might get renewed, so he didn't want to give too much away. And by the time it was certain that it wouldn't get renewed, like 4 or 5 years later, maybe not that many, but several years later, he straight up said that he doesn't remember everything they planned, because it's been so long that he was like, there's things that we planned that I just don't remember anymore, so I couldn't even answer your questions if I tried. Like, so it's like we lost that opportunity because like they didn't want to give it away, and then by the time they were sure they weren't going to get another season, they were just like, we don't really remember. We kind of lost the thread of what we were going to do, and it's like,
It's also heartbreaking.
there's so much heartbreaking. But I do like that they did answer some stuff. And they answered a bunch of other things about the characters too. Like, I just don't remember all of it, but
I
there
guess
were
it's
lots of
also,
little
like,
things.
Any theory you have could be possible.
Yeah.
It's not just like,
Yeah.
well, we'll never know, but like anything could be possible. But really,
Anything
could be
Yeah.
possible.
It's like, on the one hand, that's nice, but on the other hand, in such a mystery show,
Yeah.
it's
You
so...
just want to
you
know.
want to know what the actual mystery was, especially with things like the Holger thing. It's like, are we reading too much into it, or was Holger... And if he was involved in the plot in some way, I want to know how he was involved and what exactly they were planning, because there's such a difference between Holger is evil and was the mastermind behind everything, or Holger was being brainwashed, or Holger knew something but not everything, or like to what extent, you know, like what was his end goal, like how evil, quote unquote, was he? Like, I'm so curious. I don't even remember what the question was there.
Yeah, I mean,
oh yeah, theories. That was one I also had.
Holger.
There was also theories about Rad Circles was the main one in the
Yeah,
first two
the first two
seasons. It was like,
seasons.
who is Rad Circles? And obviously it ended up being Lynch, but
Which
there
I
was
didn't
another one
suspect
that-
at all.
speaking of the Holger thing, I initially thought it was Holger, because that shadow we see that ends up being Lynch
Yeah.
looks a lot like Holger in his spy suit.
Oh yeah,
Like,
'cause
it's
Lynch is
very
bald.
similar shape. And also, just Holger, even early in the first season, is so suspicious that I was like, I think it's
Yeah.
Holger, and it wasn't. And I think I had some other theories, like, because you were all constantly guessing, like, who is it, because that was the big mystery for the first two seasons. But yeah, Holger was so freaking suspicious that in the first couple seasons, I also thought Rad Circles was gonna be Holger. There's just something about that Holger. Did you have any theories about Rad Circles? I mean, you watched it
I
so
watched
quickly.
it differently because I watched the first 3 seasons, and
Yeah.
I think I watched the 4th season all in one go with you guys.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get time to theorize.
Yeah.
But But can I talk about like a theory that I wish had been explained more instead?
Yeah,
'Cause I don't really have
totally.
any theories.
Totally.
But so the first 2 seasons,
Mhm.
the vice principal is controlling Barrage with like jerky or whatever. She's like mind controlling him.
Yeah.
But then
Oh, yeah, I forgot it was with jerky.
but she's like involved with like the Illuminati group.
Yeah.
But then I forget how exactly she ends up pissing them off and getting taken away.
Yeah.
And I was always more curious about that, like what happened to her and like what was her deal and like what made them like pull her out of their brainwashing operation. And that's never really cleared up.
They run into her in the finale.
Yeah, and it's never, but
we
don't
get
really
any
talk to her.
answers. That's true.
So that's the one thing I always wish, because I thought she was a fun character and
They
she was
just
always
kind of
really cool. And
ran past her almost like they were going to
Yeah.
run back for her.
And the
Yeah.
other thing about her that I just remembered is in the first season or 2, she is constantly putting Biffy in detention for random reasons.
Yeah, and he
it
helps
totally
Lee.
seems like she has a reason for that.
and she's always helping Lee. Like she drives him to school once when he's
Yeah.
late. And she's always like looking out for him and kind
But
of
on the-
putting him with Biffy.
There's that, but on the other hand, there's also like it seems like she definitely has something specifically with Biffy. Like when I first watched it, before we kind of realized there was conspiracy stuff,
You thought Biffy was in on it.
No, I
Oh.
thought that they were gonna go with a really weird dark plot that she was like flirting with him and that it was like she was trying to like coerce him into something, and I was like, I don't know how far they're gonna go on a kid's show, but it really seemed like because
I
she's so
forgot
flirty
about that.
and sexual all the time.
Yeah,
and
she's
she's
like a
like
sexy
Biffy,
character.
like if you don't stop, like you're gonna have to come to detention. And it like I was like, is this gonna be like she's trying to coerce him into something sexual? Like,
Yeah.
and it totally didn't go that
She's
way.
an interesting character
But
too.
the way they interacted a little bit and the fact that she was so like always on him and like I definitely thought they were gonna go somewhere with like specifically whatever relationship, what was happening with VP and Biffy, and then that never really got explored either because again she went away and then we never really got any answers about her.
Yeah, in the first 2 seasons as well, she's kind of on the student side because Barrage is the principal, but he's always like so strict and so like puts you in tension, like yelling random things, like being Barrage, and she kind of follows behind him, and, like does damage control and kind of looks after the students. So she seems like a really good character, and then it's revealed that she's in on the brainwashing, and but it's never really explained if that was just part of her cover or if she really values the students or what.
Yeah.
So I wish we'd got more about VP.
That's true. I forgot about that, but there was so much. Yeah, I totally remember having a moment in the early seasons. There's like one episode where they really focus on the fact that she keeps hounding after Biffy, and I definitely remember having a moment where I was like, this is a kid's show. How far are they going with this? Because it seems kind of sexual. And I'm like, but it totally didn't go that direction. But yeah, it was just like there definitely seemed like there was supposed to be something there that never really got addressed. Which, yeah. Again, if only we got more seasons, maybe she would have come back. Maybe we would have got more answers about her. So we're almost at an hour. We got about 5-ish minutes left. So, do you guys have any kind of final things you really wanted to talk about? Any thoughts? Any final Detentionaire things that we didn't address yet? Any characters or plot points that we didn't mention?
I mean, it was just really nice just talking about it because I had forgot so
me
much
too.
about it.
Yeah.
And as we were talking,
It
I
was
was like,
nice.
wait, we hadn't even mentioned this.
Yeah.
His parents.
Cam is his parents. Let's talk about that instead. That's more plot wise.
We haven't mentioned his parents,
His
and his
parents
mom
are
was
so
a clone.
interesting.
and
His mom's a
who
clone.
Yeah.
Was his mom a clone of?
Yes!
Because they were, all
Yeah.
the teachers are clones of
His
historical
mom was a
figures.
clone.
People.
But who's his mom?
Yes. We never find out. There's
Yeah.
so many things we don't find out. And like
Yeah.
so many things about his brother. Like
And
we
his
find-
dad was really suspicious.
His dad was
was
always
suspicious.
suspicious. Really nice. Like a good guy, but always
God,
so
there was
suspicious.
so much more about their family. Also, one thing I realized we didn't mention at all is this show's pretty good on diversity.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we
Yeah.
touched on this, but
Lee's
like,
Korean.
Lee's Korean and Cam is Cuban, and there's like a few other things, but like, yeah, like there's a lot of different like racial diversity and like just like the character designs, like the body types and stuff are really diverse, and like it's just a nice show to watch and be like, I don't know, I just really like when there's diversity because diversity is important, but also it just
It makes
actually
it more
makes the
interesting.
characters more interesting.
You can
and
tell
I-
them apart.
Yeah, and like there's just a very, and I just think that does a pretty good job, and the characters are really interesting, and that's just one more reason why they're all really interesting. I realized we didn't mention that, but yeah, Lee's parents, so many questions.
Yeah.
I feel like What were you gonna say about?
Oh, I'm just going to talk more about how Cam becomes president.
Right.
High school president kind of just as a joke. Like, he
Yeah.
just applies on the ballot and he gets voted in. Like, you know how high schoolers
Yeah.
are. But then he ends up taking it really seriously and, like,
Yes.
trying to, like, stick up for the students and, like, it becomes really responsible in, like,
Yes.
this president role.
I love him, and then him and Brandy are like the power couple.
They're a power couple. Like, they're a battle couple, too, because they, like, shoot
Yes.
things together, like, back to back.
Power couple,
and-
battle couple.
Ah,
God, yeah. There's just so many
Cameron
good moments.
Brandy is good.
Yes, Cameron Brandy is really good. I forgot how, like, again, like you said, I'm so glad we talked about it because I haven't thought about Detentionaire that hard in a long time. And it's so good. Like, now I want to rewatch it. There's so much. And if we rewatched it, I'd have 100 more things to say because I know I've forgotten a lot. We didn't mention the tassel worm.
Tassel worm!
And we didn't mention
Okay,
Finwich.
there's like just a worm dragon thing that just lives in their school.
That's their school mascot.
He just lives in their school, and he's also sentient, but only to Lee, only at certain times.
Yeah. That's also in the...
That's
like,
so weird.
I think the tassel worm is around from the beginning,
He
but the
always
first
helps
time...
Lee.
The
Yeah.
first
Episode
time he's,
7.
like, important and, like, sentient and helps Lee is episode 7.
When Lee's like super fever.
Yeah.
High up a fever and
The
doesn't know if it's real or
Yeah.
not.
The interesting thing about episode 7 is Lee's really sick. He has a huge fever, so he's kind of hallucinating. But it's the first episode where you start to see how kind of weird their world is, but you don't know how much of it is Lee hallucinating and how much of it
Yeah.
is real.
You
Yeah.
still don't know. You still, like, can the tassel worm actually talk?
Because I don't think it
Yeah.
ever talks again, except for when it's just Lee.
Yeah. And so it's like, and even as the show goes on, like, you start to realize, like, more of that crazy stuff from 7 might actually be real because there's so much real crazy stuff, but at the same time, you're never totally sure because it's such a weird sort of moment of, like, and I think it's, in some shows, that would have been, like, the weird episode, and then after that, it's sort of, like, everything goes back to normal, but it's, like, you watch episode 7, you're just sort of, like, what did I just watch? And then you watch the next episode, and you're like, oh, that wasn't just Fever Dream episode.
Yeah.
That was the start of craziness. Like,
Yeah.
things go wild after that episode. And it's really interesting. And, yeah, the tassel worm. God.
I love the tassel worm.
And I feel like there's so many other things we didn't... There's so much to the show. Every episode... Like, they're only 20-minute episodes. There's only 4 seasons. And every season is probably only, like, 12, 13 episodes. But
There's
they're
just
so
so
dense. So much happens in those episodes. You sit down and watch one episode, and, like, a lot happens.
Yeah, every episode opens with, not so much in later seasons, but the first 3 definitely. It opens with, like, Lee, like, in media res, like, doing
Yeah.
something. Then it goes back and explains throughout the day. And then it ends with him, like, analyzing the day and being like, I'm this
Yeah.
much closer to solving it. But I'm, like, kind of not closer to solving it
Yeah.
at all.
And then there's just kind of cute stuff of him, like, talking
Talking to
to
his
Cam and
friends.
Holger and, like,
Yeah.
going to bed.
Again, just, like, the character
feels
relationship
real.
feels so real. Like, there's so much heavy plot stuff
His mom's
happening.
always like, lights out.
Yeah.
He's like, that's okay.
Even when the plot is going crazy, they still take time to have these, like, little moments where the characters talk to each other like real friends, and it makes it so much more endearing, and you care about what's happening in this crazy plot because you care about the characters so much.
Yeah, it's got the really good balance of plot and characters.
It's just what just makes a show for me, and that's why this is
Yeah.
one of my favorite shows ever, because it's got such a wild plot that's so weird and so, like, tech punk and cool, but then just such endearing characters. It's really good. All right, any final thoughts before we wrap up? Final little things?
Our kid Kay is the cutest cat in the whole world.
Oh, we didn't mention Purple Kitty Cat!
Yeah.
That's
She wears
Biffy's
sweaters.
cat. She's
I love
so
her.
cute.
She has kittens.
Yeah.
I love her.
It's well worth a watch.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I know we did kind of spoil a lot of stuff in this, but we also
Not a lot.
There's so much other stuff that we didn't even touch on that even if you sat down and listened to this without watching the show, you could still go watch the show and you'll be surprised by a lot of things, I guarantee.
And
Yes.
I mean, like, if you want, put, like, a disclaimer at the beginning of, like, it is a mystery, so if you
Yeah.
watch it beforehand,
I mean, I did kind of say that, but
Yeah,
I'll also
but, like,
write it.
Yeah.
But yeah, even if you did, you're like, dang, now I listened to the podcast, and now I do want to go watch the show. Still go
There's
watch
still
it.
so
Yeah,
much.
There's
You're
still
gonna-
so much,
you're
and
gonna
you're
be
still
surprised.
gonna enjoy it, even if we spoiled some things. But like, it's still gonna be worth the watch because it's just really fun and it's funny. I don't
It
know
is.
if we really touched on
It's a
how
funny
funny
show.
it is, but it's funny.
To this day, I still quote it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there are still things I quote about it. It's very funny. It's just overall really good. So I think we all highly recommend it. And if you watch it, tell your friends about it because it's not that well known.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like
It
at this
needs more
point
love.
it's gonna get more seasons or anything, but it just deserves to be known because it's really good. And like we said, it does suck that there's not more seasons, but it's still, the finale still like does sum up a lot. It's not like it totally like leaves you hanging.
Yeah, it definitely
Yeah.
wasn't a letdown. Like,
Yeah.
you felt disappointed.
No.
It's almost like they finished one chapter and they were going to start a second
Yeah.
and kind of
Yeah.
opened it but never did. So it's,
Yeah,
it's
but they
definitely satisfying.
They still
but-
finished that chapter, so it's still gonna be satisfying to watch. Don't worry. You won't, like, there's some things where you're like, dang, I wish I knew more about Holger, but it's not like you're gonna be like, dang, I don't know anything. Like, you still do
Yeah.
get a fairly satisfying finale, so watch it.
Watch it, love it.
Yes.
Tell a friend.
Tell me all about it. Yeah. So, if you're watching this, or I guess listening to this, on YouTube, you should comment below if you have watched it. Tell me if you love it. If you haven't, tell me if you're gonna go watch it now, because you should, and then come back and talk to me about it, because I love it. You can also like this video if you're on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, because I do these every month about different fandoms with different friends. You can go back and listen to the previous ones. And if you're on SoundCloud, you can also like and follow me on SoundCloud. Go listen to the other ones. And thank you for watching. Or I guess listening. I meant listening, not watching. And thank you guys for being here. I hope this three-way conversation was good. Usually I only talk to one person, but I think 3 people is kind of fun in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all had stuff to say about our good show Detentionaire.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Say bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.